We're all good. If you're good.
I'm good.
Awesome.
Thanks. It's such a pleasant driving experience.
I'm glad you approve.
The music, the bow tie, the Taurus. I'm very relaxed all of a sudden.
My pleasure. I'm
Better
glad.
than shitting and sitting in duck shit.
Whoa.
Shitting in duck shit at the park.
That too. So I don't know your name yet.
Mel
and Gabriel.
Melanie and Gabriel.
Melanie and Gabriel. Mine's Binyam.
Binyam, good
You
name.
got it. Thank you.
How's your weekend going?
My week is
Well, I
it is
guess
the
it's
weekend.
still the week. I don't know.
It is
Depends who you're
approaching the
asking.
weekend. Absolutely.
Clearly we're on vacation. So it's the weekend.
Where are you guys from?
Vancouver. We're here for a wedding.
Oh, you don't say. So you're not even here for the Stampede at all?
No.
No.
You might like dabble,
dabble
just because
tomorrow.
you've done it, right?
I've done it.
You've been
done
here.
that.
Yeah.
Never experienced it.
Gotcha.
so-
It's
Gotcha.
fun. What else is there to do?
What are your feelings?
Well, I haven't attended a Stampede yet. I haven't
If a
attended one.
local hasn't done it, that's saying something.
Well, here's the thing though. I do enjoy being around people. I do. I don't find I have wants, you know. So I guess if I were to attend, the Stampede wouldn't be the main event for me. It would be the people.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So
Yeah, same here.
I get to
Same
interact
here,
with
yeah.
people ongoing, and so I feel like I'm well served.
Right.
And yet, even now, as an Uber driver, I interact with people who are in and out. Here's the thing. I think we may subscribe to some things whereby we think, if I attended this event, then I'll get something, as opposed to who you meet, you know?
Right.
So it's almost like we displace the real essence of the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Or so it seems.
Right.
Well, I think
So,
Right. For me, like I grew up in the country.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I hated like I shouldn't say hate, but
Yeah, you didn't.
I really didn't
resonate
click with the cowboy
Theme.
big trucks.
Sure.
Persona. No.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because like these days I like big trucks, and that's because of functionality.
Right.
But those days I didn't,
Yeah.
and that was because of ego-driven,
Sure enough.
just like
Yeah.
trophy truck, right?
Yeah.
So like in that way,
Yeah.
not really connected to the Stampede, but
Right.
it'd be. I don't know. Every experience is a different experience, I guess,
I
right?
think live music, we've never had a bad time.
That's true.
So if there's
Yeah.
live music,
Music and rodeo's
I
interesting.
don't think the rodeo would be that fun.
I lived down south when I was a kid, though, right? So it's
You
something
wanna
I
see some
went to when I was a
cowboys.
child, and could be kind of fun to relive.
See, again, like for me, it's always an excuse to be around people. Like this job for me, it's an excuse to meet people along the way, you know? Same thing I think that we kind of strive for in these events is like, who are we going to meet? Is it going to be a good time, you know? And that's like that point of connection that we're looking for, like you're saying, Mel, yeah. Because there's people who attend them year in, year out. There's people who go to conferences year in, year out thinking that they're going to get that something that they're missing, right? And at the very heart of it, I'd say the thing that they may be looking for is, first of all, inside themselves, in the way they think about themselves. Because when you come to it, like I get together on a regular with a group of friends, and the guy who usually hosts it, back in the early days, he was just really concerned who's going to show up, who's not. And I said, it honestly doesn't matter, because whoever's going to be there, if it's a small group or a large group, that wasn't the point. The point was, are we going to have an amazing connection while we're together? And so part of that entails that when you're coming to an event, you're like, I already know what I'm bringing to it and what my expectations are, right? There might be people who jive with you or not, you know, but the real point is, how can you like sort of be a part of that experience that carries on, instead of saying, for example, some events are so huge because of the experience you had, and then you come back to that event with the same expectation, and it might not be there, you know?
You can never expect
Once the elusive
same thing,
factor,
yeah.
it's you. So,
Right.
yeah.
Can't recreate.
So I'm from up the street from Vancouver from you guys in Kamloops.
Oh, sweet.
That's
so
where I
we
grew up.
actually live in Squamish.
Oh, no way, okay.
Just
Yeah.
say Vancouver.
Yeah, it's just
Sweet, man.
same area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What brought you this way?
My grad studies some 14 years ago. And then 14 years ago,
14?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and
You just
then
look young.
I do look very young. I know. I throw a lot of people off.
Yeah.
And then I spent a few years in Saskatchewan before saying, I kind of like Calgary. So I came back here.
What were your grad studies?
My grad studies were in theology,
Theology.
study of religion, yes, and convictions, and I'm fascinated by that. Intrigued.
Gabe has been dying to learn about Ismaili because we're here for Ismaili.
Okay.
Ismaili, I said it wrong. Said it like it's written.
That's all right.
Smiley wedding.
So this will be an experience.
Are you religious?
No.
Right.
No, I
So
would.
that's interesting too, because it's like
Same with
people that
Michelle.
study religion
Yeah,
are
often
probably often not religious.
See, I was religious,
Okay.
but I think part of my even when I was religious once upon a time, I was intrigued still by differing perspectives.
Okay.
And the thing that I think captured my interest was how there are some strongly held convictions, if you will, or perspectives or ideals that people hold, and how those evolve, especially in the landscape of such diversity. And then how together, like, we sort of still strive for something, you know? There are similarities, yes, and there's differences, but like there's two things I learned when I moved to Canada. You don't talk about politics or religion, right? And I've sort of rolled up my sleeve and said, but why? And so I'm intrigued by that dynamic. And I think there's a way that you can still engage. Because here's the thing. We were talking about, you know, good times earlier. I think the good times are really had when you are able to experience some level of intimacy, vulnerability, connection with someone where they see you for who you truly are and you're able to see into them, right? And that involves like that sense of voluntarily giving up bits about yourself over time and saying, I'm going to trust you with this little bit and this little bit. And the more a person can grow in trust in another person that way, the more you're able to say, okay, I know you much better. For example, you guys know way more about each other than I know about you guys, right? Because you've invested that way by way of trust and voluntary. I'm going to give you a chance on this one here, right? But when it comes to like those deeply held things, it seems from my observation in this culture here over time, I think people maybe take their deeply helds as personal, saying, if you speak against this, then I'm almost going to take this personally. And hence why we just have those kind of caveats to say,
Super unfortunate.
Stay away from this topic. Again, just because we haven't had practice in engaging. And I think it is unnecessary, and it could be a better experience if we learn some appropriate sort of prerequisites along the way. But I may be a little bit biased or opinionated.
Well,
I think religion is also just seeking connection, human connection as well.
a lot of it, yeah. I mean,
And understanding of like order.
Like
Yeah.
mindedness.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, goodness,
That's
the
super
police.
interesting. That book that we're listening to right now, babe.
What is it?
It's called Inner Engineering by Sadhguru.
Okay.
And there's one line that he says, often people come out of, like, he noticed as a young man, like, people often come out of restaurants with a bigger smile on their face than they do coming out of temples. And he was just questioning, you know, his whole family was very religious. I can't remember but he was just like, I didn't go into the temple because of that. Like, he didn't understand it entirely.
Yeah.
He's just like, I guess he's I haven't really done enough research on the man to know, but I think he's more of like a yogi than a
Spiritual rather than religious.
yeah, he's a guru. He's not a spiritual leader, right? So
Yeah. It's interesting, especially when a person espouses a certain set of ideals, and I know I'm part of this camp, when they espouse a certain set of convictions that they don't actually live up to, and so they present to this front, but at the very heart there's something totally different. And so they almost feel like they're compelled to say this because of the community or because of the pressure that they have to, you know, like put out to survive maybe in their social circles, whereas their perspectives are totally different. And I think in most religions there is it's rampant with this kind of dichotomy where people don't really feel like they can truly be who they are and say what they really feel, even though they know what the right answers according to their faith are or their religious persuasions are. And so what does it take to be able to even have conversations in those communities to say, how can we give each other space to ask these questions even while we subscribe to these ideals that we may not understand fully, right?
But a lot of people, I think, maybe don't even recognize those things, and like, these are their studies, and so it becomes like their persona and stuff, but not necessarily them,
right?
Or their truth, yeah. Like,
and then for those who know them closely, whether it's their kids or their partners or their family members, who are able to see between the cracks, that sows more disillusionment, right? It sows more cynicism in saying, you're saying this, but I can't really take you for a while how you're presenting yourself because you're not even being honest with yourself. So they can pull something off in general, but when it comes to the very heart of it, I guess this is even like this author you're talking about saying, hey, this guy, he seems to have this perception of his status, you know, as a spiritual leader, but it's not compelling because he only goes so far, right? He's saying some things, but it doesn't quite match up or add up.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm, I think part of my investment in the work that I do is what does it look like to create those safe places to say, you're not a write-off because you may have some deviations that you know you feel guilty about or whatever, but to actually help affirm that your fumbles in life and trying to figure things out and put things together don't define your worth. That's already there from the get-go. But what does it look like for you to actually step into that and have those conversations with your community?
Do you have like a podcast or anything? Because I feel like you should.
I have a few. I have a few that I just started. So even there, yeah.
Did you? A few.
What?
More than one. Tell us.
Well,
tell
let me
us.
tell you,
We're gonna
this
listen.
is where I put my
Okay.
work. My podcasts aren't there, but if you let me see here. How can I give you? See, I only have a few.
How do we find that? Just write it down.
Okay, I'll write it down for you. Yeah, for sure.
No, we'll write it
I
down.
can
Tell
text-
us,
I
we'll
can
text
text it
we
to
just
you,
text
babe.
it to
Okay,
you.
that sounds good. You got my handles there, and so that's probably a good way to start. Those are where I place most of my videos and my ideas of what could be.
Love
Yeah.
it.
And then, the podcasts are a fairly recent venture in the last couple of months where
Cool.
Amazing.
I have one with friends that I have, like a group of my guy friends. I say, hey, can we model for my audience what it could look